Welcome to another episode of Blue is the New White. I've got an awesome guest for you guys today. His name is Mr. Gian Carlo, aka Mr. Manufacturing
Manufacturing. That's
from
right.
Amerikooler. Some of you may know Carlo, some of you may not, but we're going to try to get to know him a little bit today. So, Carlo, why don't you go ahead?
Giancarlo.
Gian
GC.
Carlo,
Call me GC.
GC. Let's do GC.
There you
GC.
go.
So, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience, man?
So this is GC, otherwise known as Mr. Manufacturing. I am the CEO and president of Amerikooler. Well, let's see what happens after Corona here, but was the fastest growing manufacturer and soon to be largely privately held manufacturer of walk-in coolers in the food service equipment industry in the United States. So, yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Well, how'd you get your start? Where you come from?
So my start was, we're actually, my dad's Cuban and my mom's Puerto Rican. So my grandfather was an entrepreneur in Cuba, and he had a big manufacturing company there that made bridges and oil storage tanks and like big stuff, a lot of engineering. And, lo and behold, the beautiful communist revolution came. And I'm being like super sarcastic right there. The message was clear, like either you give us everything or you get out of here. We kill you or put you in jail, whatever. Those are your choices. So, everyone had to flee the island. And my grandmother with, I don't know, maybe $100, maybe $50 in her purse, snuck everyone to the airport, and, everyone kind of met her there, and I got the hell out of Dodge, So, I always start with that part of the story because it's going to tell you how in the hell we got into walk-in coolers as a family and how I became Mr. Manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
So, my dad, lived through that, and he saw my grandfather like go to Puerto Rico and have to start from scratch again. Imagine working, you're like 50 or something, you're established, and you lose everything. You have to start from scratch with the family. So my grandfather started up again in Puerto Rico doing like the same type of thing, big projects, engineering, oil storage tanks, and so on and so forth. Basically like heavy manufacturing. And, long story short, like my grandfather got sick and sold the company. And my dad had to start all over again because he was left with nothing. And he found his way to Miami. And being that he had that background in manufacturing and heavy engineering and like making big stuff, he just loved walk-in coolers, man, So he saw, the story goes that he saw like a refrigerated warehouse one day, and he's like, oh my God, it's big and it's manufacturing, it's engineering. That's what I want to do. Right. So, he followed his passion, and then he founded Amerikooler. So, I grew up, close with my dad, and I saw him start Amerikooler. And we obviously, not obviously, but we were like best buds, and I always wanted to work with him. Like that was always what I wanted to do. So I went to school, I studied finance. His background was more in engineering. Mine was more business. Like I like business. I love business. To me, it's like a sport, that every day you got to practice and get better at it, in that regard. Right. And you can never really master it. You always have to get better. And then once you learn one thing, there's like a whole other thing you need to learn. So, I came in and my dad and I partnered up, and I brought kind of the business side. He brought the engineering manufacturing side, and here we are. I've been president for, I think it's going to be my 7th year now, and it's going very well.
Unbelievable. That's great. And I love stories like that. Guys having to start over and building it all from scratch with nothing in their pocket. And it's just, American dream, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Where'd you go to school?
So I went to school for my undergrad here locally, and then I went to school in Boston for like my executive MBA. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm always curious about school because we talk a lot of, on this podcast about the trades and skilled trades industries and manufacturing and stuff like that. So, my argument is, school absolutely has its place, and it's a very integral part of a lot of people's success and future. But other people seem to end up going to college for the wrong reasons, and they accumulate all this debt and then have trouble, applying the knowledge that they learned or the degree that they obtained to enable them to future their, to further their careers. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I agree with you, in like the what you're saying. I mean, like, unless my opinion is that unless you go to like a real Ivy League established college where you really, I mean, obviously you learn, but you make a lot of great connections. Like, I don't know how much it is, get worth getting in debt, and investing the time to do that. Um, I've benefited from kind of both sides of it personally. Like, I went to the school of hard knocks where I've had to learn a lot of things myself, just using my brain and my instinct and making a shitload of mistakes, part of my language, um, and learning as fast as I could. And I've also benefited from a good education where I feel like it accelerated my learning curve enormously. Like, my recommendation, or at least my style, is like the way that I've always learned the most is talking to successful people. Like, if you want to make or learn how to make money, um, I mean, take a rich person out to lunch, honestly. You know what I mean? Or dinner, whatever the hell you got to do. Buy him a coffee, find out,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And the stuff that you could learn will surprise you, because a lot of the most successful people, I mean, a lot of them are like, obviously they went through the college system and, they excelled in that area. And a lot of them didn't, you know? So I would say, by and large, like, your message is great, and I resonate with it, because frankly, not everyone is like needs to go to college. Like I haven't read your book yet. I understand it's great though.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, but like you could go into debt and go to school, for example, and I guess make $50,000 a year, or 60. Or let's say you go into the trades, you go to school for a much shorter time period, spend a lot less, and who knows, you're making $70,000, $80,000 from year one.
Yeah.
If you're, assuming you work hard and you have at least a little bit of brain and
Right.
integrity, right?
Right, which is a fundamental no matter what you do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I try to get across too. But it's interesting you brought that up with the connections that you make and the networking in college, because that's what I hear a lot is and that's kind of my argument too, is college is very good for a lot of things, and if you're going to go to college, go for the education, don't go for that degree, that piece of paper. Go for the connections you're going to make, the friendships that you're going to build, the network, that you can create from these people that you're surrounded by. um, but there's this stigma that surrounds the population that the only way to be successful is to go to college, and that's part of my mission to try to uh, enlighten people to look, just because you don't go to college doesn't mean you have to work at a grocery store your entire life. Nothing against people
Mm.
that work at grocery stores, you know.
Yeah, I love my Publix bagger, the one in the back,
Absolutely, except they just recently ran out of bags, right?
yeah, they ran out of bags, and then who knows, a lot
Yeah.
the toilet paper. Yeah.
So, but and you're absolutely right. And another point that I'd like to make too is, it sounds like when you went to college, you knew your path. You knew you wanted to work with your dad. You knew you wanted to be a part of the business. So, you kind of knew what you were focused on, right? And that's the other thing that I hear a lot, especially with people in the trades and those who have turned their skilled trade into a business of their own. they make the decision then at that point to go to college and further the education that they know that they want, rather
Mm,
than being an 18-year-old kid saying, hey, let me look at this list and pick something off of it that I want to do the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
mm, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I mean, it's an interesting subject. I mean, yeah, I, yeah, school is tough, for some people. It was tough for me initially. Like it took me, like a little bit to figure out how to become a good student. Eventually I did, but you can waste a lot of time and money going to school, to be honest.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, it brought up a book that I read years ago, must be almost 20 years ago, called The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read it, and I don't remember like the gist of it, but the one big takeaway was like or the Millionaire Next Door. It was something like the some of the richest people that had like $1 million in the bank and more were like plumbers and mechanics and guys like that, that no one would suspect because they just had like obviously they worked hard and but they had like a lower financial profile, but they were wealthy. I mean, they had a lot of money. So I don't know if you've read that book, but
I
I think
have.
it kind of reads into this message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's on this bookshelf somewhere.
Mm,
But yeah, I do. I like that book. I think I got it for free at like one of my lenders gave it to me or something. But no, that's a really great book, and one that I highly recommend my audience take a look at, because it does reinforce the message that I try to get across pretty well. Um,
mm.
so moving on from the college thing, when you started working in the business in Amerikooler and really starting to like sink your teeth in, so probably maybe during or after college or school, um, where was the company then compared to where it is now?
Um, I mean, a ways away, I would say. I mean, to me, yeah, like everyone has different like skill sets, I guess. It's hard enough to start a business. Like my skill set is probably more towards improving something that's existing already. So yeah, I mean, we were obviously, without getting into enormous detail, but we were doing a lot less revenue. Obviously, growing up, right, than we are now, and just not even going that far back, like going back 5 years ago, like the company, it was different in terms of the talent level. So like I just did like a video series, right? And I just published the first one. There's four more coming. It's one of five. But like the first step for me is always get the right people on in their freaking company. I said build a team first. Like because you can have a great product or something, but if you don't have the team or anything, frankly, it's probably not that good of a product.
Yeah.
So like I would say the first step to making a truly great company is build the team. You can't do it all yourself. So the more you can do to attract talent to work with you and alongside you, man, it's just going to accelerate the hell out of your progress. So like that was one of the first areas that I focused on. And then on top of that, I built the sales organization. But really more importantly than the sales organization was the operations, like in manufacturing. Like I have a saying called get the house in order. Like, what if you go and you sell a ton, but you can't make it or you can't ship it on time? Like, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You know what I mean? You can be the best damn salesperson on planet Earth, but if that first order comes in and you get several new orders and you screw up that first order, like you accomplished nothing. So I always talk about getting the house in order. So we did a lot of process improvement. I brought in guys from the old General Electric and Pratt and Whitney and a bunch of consultants, and we redid the whole path of the whole factory. We got the people in place. We created an organization with roles and responsibilities, and clarity. We developed a process to produce at a certain time at a certain cost. We built the sales team, so on and so forth, HR, benefits, all of that stuff, man. Accounting and finance. Like all of those pillars, you got to kind of do it at the same time. So that's been a lot of the stuff that I've been doing since I became president, right? So far, I mean, we've more than tripled in the last, let's say, 6 years. So, um, you know, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting ride.
It sounds like it. So I'm curious because, selfishly in my own company, this is something that I, always try to improve on. And that is attracting the right people and finding the right people to put in place. And I'm sure that, how hard it is in the skilled trades industries to even find technicians and,
Yeah.
manufacturing professionals and things like that. Um, so through this process, did you bring on like C-level executives and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, yes. And initially, so look, like I was actually having this conversation yesterday with the legendary Fred Clashman from Total Food Service in New York. A little shout out. But like one thing that you got to be passionate about, I would say, a lot of people are passionate about their product, or some people are passionate about, you know, their hobby. Some people are passionate about anything. Like if you're like the guy running your company, like you gotta be freaking passionate about your company. You gotta really believe believe in it big time, and have a vision. So when you're talking to people, like especially when you're trying to recruit talent, like they need to feel that, because you can throw all the money you want at them, but if they don't feel that level of commitment and passion on your part, and when you talk about your company, you talk about with enormous belief and enthusiasm, they're not going to jump on board most likely, unless you really throw a lot of money at them, and then they're going to come in half-heartedly, you know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like obviously you got to have the basics. You got to be able to afford, which by the way, it's usually a great investment to hire someone very good. It's like an enormously great return on investment.
Yeah.
Um, but combined with that, you got to have that passion and enthusiasm and a vision, right? You could be, like this is where we're gonna go, and they're gonna be, like oh man, like that's what I want. They feel that energy, they feel that passion, and that's where you can generally. Sometimes you can get guys that are making more, guys and girls, at other companies, but they want to work with you and they want to experience your culture so much that they're willing to forego, in some instances, a little bit of the financial part, so that they can help you build.
Yeah.
And then, inevitably, let's say everything goes well and you bonus them even more than they thought, everyone's happy, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's such great advice. It's it's one of those things that I say is simple but not easy, for a lot of people. And I'm not sure why. I am one of those people that I have tremendous passion for what I do. And in my business in particular, I can't not talk shop. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm,
even at family gatherings and when I'm with my friends or something like that, the topic of the company always comes up because it's just, I mean, it's always top of mind. So I completely get that. And I see how that could be a strong lure for the right kind of talent. So on the
mhm.
flip side of the coin, how do you determine if somebody is the right type of talent?
Man, you use the right word there, coin. A coin toss, man.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Kiss some
you
frogs.
don't. Oh yeah, yeah. You got to kiss some frogs, right, before you get to the good old Prince Charming. But like what we instituted, there is a way to de-risk or to increase your odds. Like ultimately, the odds of making the right hire are still probably 50-50. But if you can get it to 51 at least, man, you should do it. 51, hopefully more, right? But
Yeah.
like what we instituted was like I got clear on what our core values were, and then like I created certain questions to ask that wasn't so direct, right? Like we have a core value called figure it out. In other words, like be resourceful. You can't say, "Do you figure things out? Are you
Yeah.
resort?" Of course
Right.
I do. I,
Yeah. Yeah, I do. That's what I do best.
man, I love puzzles, man. No, you have to ask a question that's a little more subtle, right? And then we have 5 core values. So I got clear on the core values and I created questions around those. And then like I instituted Like I use this thing called the PI, the predictive index, which is one of a large amount of like behavioral assessments. It's not psychological. People think I'm going to discover them, like, oh, I'm calling the psychiatrist. No, no, you're schizophrenic. No, no, it's not like that. But like, in two extreme examples, like if you're going to hire an accountant, for example, like usually you would want someone very detailed. You know what I mean? If you're going to hire a salesperson, you usually want someone very extroverted. So like, with these types of tests, you can kind of create a profile of what you're looking for based on the position. And then they don't know that profile and they take it and you see if it matches or not, the
And
irony. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, have you found that to work pretty well?
Yeah. It
Okay.
works. It works well. Still doesn't it gets you closer because, the irony that I found is that a lot of people want to be something that they're not. Like, you may have some people, for example, like, oh, I just want to make money. I want to be in sales because I want to make money. Well, if you're not a good salesperson, like you're probably not going to make money, like, so why do you even want to do that? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So like they have different strengths. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So like if chances are too, if you do something that you're strong at, you're going to succeed more. Right. So what I found is like people would be applying for jobs that wasn't in their strengths, and you know, now it's not always the case. That's how people are. Like, there's always exceptions, right?
Hmm.
There may be an extremely extroverted, like accountant type of person, and there may be extremely detailed sales type of person. But that's where you got to use your gut instinct.
Yeah. Yeah. I've found through my experience too that, no matter how many questions you ask, at the end of the day, your gut always is telling most of it. I shouldn't say always, because there's been times when my gut said like 50-50. I don't know, but a lot of times you'll be able to tell, um, in your gut, whether or not the person that you're sitting across from is going to be a good fit at the company,
Mm,
and I tell my team to really pay attention to the red flags too, with
mm,
and they can be subtle, right? The tiniest little thing. Oh, he said this, or maybe he's at the start of the interview, he said one thing, and then at the end of the interview, he just said something that was a little bit different. I mean, so to pay attention to those red flags,
mm.
and it's not easy because sometimes your gut is saying, well, we really need somebody in this position. Maybe we should give this guy a shot, but then there's these 2 or 3 little red flags that you just overlook. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you're saying, why the hell did we hire this guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's a terrible feeling.
Oh gosh,
No,
I
and then
know.
and then and then yeah, I know. You're like, oh, and then no one wants to fire, right? So yeah. So there's that saying that, I don't know if you've heard it, but it stuck with me. It says hire slow, fire fast.
Yep.
So much easier said than done, man.
Oh
So much
yeah.
easier said than done. But before I forget, like you mentioned something, one other little tidbit. Like I started doing interviews as a team. Like when I was earlier, I would do it solely based on my gut instinct. But now, whenever I want to hire, at least a major hire, right? Not for every single one. Like, I'll have several people on my team interview, and that's obviously so we all get different perspectives and stuff. But to see if this new hire will fit with the current team, you know. So that's generally a good practice.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you
Yeah.
do it one after another? So they meet with one person, then if they pass that, basically they meet with another person and then another
Yeah,
person.
yeah. Something. I used to make the person like leave and come back. Like I wanted to make sure they wanted the job. So they do one interview, and I would say, okay, we'll call you, and then they come back, and then okay, then I'll do it. Then they send them home, then we come back. But now I try to just do it all in one shot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like if they pass the first level, then they go to the second. Usually I'm like the third or fourth level. By the time they're interviewing with me, it's like the team now brings people to me to say, look, we think this is a good candidate. What do you think? And then I'll give the final sign off, which
Nice.
is good.
Well, that's I think that's some really great advice on how to find the right people and how to attract the right kind of talent. So That's the biggest thing that you attribute to the growth of the company thus far. So from an operations standpoint, what kind of processes did you find help the most in the expansion of your business?
Uh, so like there's a gentleman that passed away recently, Jack Welch,
Yep.
ex-CEO of
Rest in peace.
General Electric. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was some controversy around the guy, but I think he did a great job. But anyways, like one of the things he was famous for was he instituted like very like metrics based management, and it's like a lot of Six Sigma, which is just a fancy way of saying like everything you produce is pretty much perfect, like almost zero defects.
Yep.
So like I instituted a lot of that methodology here. And it's not just in the factory now. Like now we're even doing it in the office. Like we track and we measure everything to squeeze out every ounce of productivity. But in a way that frankly the employees enjoy too, because like they're a lot clearer on what they're being measured on. So like what I always say is like everyone should know, how in the hell do I get an A on my report card? Like I like to get A's, right? I wasn't that good. Well, I was okay in school, okay, but I like to get A's. But if I don't know how to get an A, it's not as fun, right? How do I put score? So like now everyone has clarity from the plant to the office. Um, like this is like your role, your expectation. This is your responsibility. These are the metrics we're measuring you on, and then you know so like that type of stuff has been powerful. Like I like to measure. I'm kind of maniacal about that. I measure a lot. Like I measure a lot of metrics, and I like to look at metrics every morning with the team. We're looking at metrics and numbers, because
Yep.
what's the first thing you do when you want to lose weight? What's the
Step on
first
the
thing you
scale.
do?
Yeah.
You step on the scale.
Yep.
How much do I weigh now, right? And then how much do I want to weigh? And then, but if you don't know how much you weigh, how the hell are you going to lose weight, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
can lose it, but
that makes a
it's a
lot of
lot easier
sense.
when you have a specific amount, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanna touch on that for a little bit, because I'm a metrics guy too. I love looking at metrics. I mean, I set my system up now to where I have too many metrics and I need to scale
Mm.
back. And so my question for you is, how do you determine the right metrics to track? Because there are so many, right? And I've found that it's kind of this rabbit hole that I go down sometimes, that, oh, we should know this, we should know that, we should know this. But at the end of the day, some of those metrics are driven by other metrics to track. So I have trouble, isolating which ones are the most important for my business, aside from the standard, revenue, profits, margins, all of that kind of stuff. There's other metrics in there that are better to be tracked, or really good to be tracked. But I think the decision process of how to select those is difficult for a lot of people.
I mean, I uh, I like to keep it to the basics. I mean, revenue. Like there's certain major costs that I'll track. Like one thing that people don't track enough, or they don't pay attention to, is cash. Which
Yep.
actually that's a fifth step in how to make money in manufacturing. Is increasing the cash flow.
Yeah.
Without the cash flow, you ain't got shit.
Yeah.
So part of my language, you're gonna have to bleep that out, man.
No, I don't
Sorry.
bleep shit out. It's fine.
Okay, all right. So like if you're running a business, like I think you should know what improves cash, which that's one thing that was invaluable that I learned in business school was cash and how to improve cash flow, because it wasn't what I thought. And It's vitally important. So anything that can lend itself to increasing cash, which obviously will go to pr- profitable sales, right? And then collecting on those sales as quickly as possible, and
Yeah.
then and getting better terms with your vendors, maybe like paying them a little slower, or getting some serious discounts if you pay
Yeah.
quick, combined with like good inventory management. Like anything around those metrics, you can't go wrong. So
Yeah.
if I had to choose, I would do something around that. But we look at revenue, we look at like I measure like different bottlenecks. Manufacturing, like your business is service, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys do?
HVAC, refrigeration, hot side equipment.
Okay, okay. But you're more in the service and you don't sell, but you're not manufacturing it, right?
No, not manufacturing. We
Okay,
sell, service, maintain, and install.
okay, all right. So yeah, I mean, you want to make sure you're getting paid, number one, and getting paid as quickly as possible. And then with your vendors, if you can pay them, get a better terms, and I mean that's usually the name of the game, right? And then if
Yeah.
you do it profitably without losing your ass, every time you install something, you better be making money. All of those things are great metrics.
Yeah.
So like what I was going back to is like since we're manufacturing and it's like it's like a train, like it starts here and it goes through and it ships out the back. Like anywhere there's a bottleneck, I'll tend to track until it's no longer a bottleneck. Like if one department's holding up all the others, like I will measure that sucker until capacity's open.
Nice. And then you move on to a
Yeah,
different metric that are another
correct.
bottleneck or whatever
Yeah.
fires need to be put out, right?
Hmm.
Okay. That's really cool. So, um, all right. That I've got too much information here to fit on my little piece of paper. I love it. Um, no, this is great. So to kind of shift the subject a little bit, I know that there's this whole thing going on right now with the coronavirus, and I know how it's starting to affect my industry, but I'm curious how it's starting to affect yours, um, or how you feel about things going on right now.
um, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is like a nice curveball. My approach, someone said it here yesterday, and it's true. I think he borrowed it from Semper Fi or whatever. The improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Improvise, adapt, overcome. So, like right now, like in any situation in life or business or personal, like you get thrown tremendous curveball sometimes that no one could have seen. So you can't even anticipate. Like this is a perfect example.
Yeah.
So what I'm just obsessed with right now is obviously the safety of the employees and of my customers. And in addition to that, what I'm focused on is finding the opportunity in this sucker. You
Yes.
know, in every crisis, there is a freaking opportunity. And there's a big one in here. I'm guaranteeing you. So like we're shifting focus. For example, like we're focused on two things right now. One is like this ghost kitchen, which is basically like someone in Silicon Valley like invented this cool word for like a delivery only restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a ghost kitchen. And so anything with delivery is going to blow up for us, and we have like a lot of demand for that right now, like for ghost kitchen type stuff. And then the other thing is like for my product line specifically is like residential walk-ins. Like a lot of people now want to hoard a lot more stuff at home, so they want to put a freaking walk-in cooler at home. I mean, who am I to argue, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a
Right.
great idea personally.
Of course.
So yeah, so you know, but before this happened, like those weren't as important.
Yeah.
Like we were looking at other traditional segments. Now this happens, and we're like, okay, where's the, like Wayne Gretzky said, like I skate to not where the puck is to where it's going. I skate
Yep.
to where the puck's going, right? So
Yeah.
the puck's going here and bounces off the wall, goes back. All right, I knew it was going to come back here. That's where I am already. So I think that's where my industry is going to move towards. So I'm already shifting gears and I'm heading in that direction. That's the only thing I can do. Now, in
Yeah.
the meantime, it's a massive disruption. We're sending, some people like, are home. Before, if you had the sniffles, we wouldn't send you home. We'd say, take some vitamin C and
Tape and aspirin to it, as my dad would say.
they've been aspirin to it. And now, you get a little sniffle. We're like, yeah, you got to go home.
Get out of here.
So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's interesting. And, I think you hit the nail on the head there too, is, you have to look at these times and see the opportunity in it. And at the same time, I think it's important for everybody to know, because it's just nuts what's happening everywhere with the grocery stores and stuff like that. I tried to go grocery shopping yesterday and it was a ghost town. You know what I mean? And I think the most important thing is to just remind everybody that this too shall pass.
Yeah.
This isn't the be all end all. This isn't the apocalypse. This is just another thing, that
Yeah.
happens. And unfortunately, we got to hit the curveballs too, and that's just, you know, as human beings, that's kind of our responsibility, right? Each
Yeah.
person's responsibility to put themselves in a position to where they can succeed. And I think that a
Yeah.
lot of business leaders will come out of this well. Also, maybe leaders who you didn't really notice before
Mm.
will tend to shine and emerge,
Mm.
um, and really just kind of shed light as onto why their business is running the way that it's running. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see how it's going to affect in my markets and in my industry. I know out here in Phoenix, they just started closing up some restaurants. In Houston, they closed up restaurants. I got a branch out there
Mm.
as well. But like you said, it's really dine in only. Takeout
Yeah.
and delivery are still in
Correct.
operation. And so we'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll tell you one thing: the amount of food that is going to be consumed definitely will not be reduced. It's
Right.
just a matter of where are they going to get it, right?
That's it.
I'm in food service or in food. They're going to buy it somewhere. Obviously, they're going to the grocery store or delivery. Those are the two avenues. So we're focused. We want to definitely get a lot more the supermarkets moving forward, but delivery and all of that, we're focused like a laser right now because
Yeah.
that's 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 where we see the trend moving.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. I know that you're going to have to take off pretty soon here, but got just like a couple more questions for you. More on
No,
a.
hey, this has been a great. I'm enjoying this, man.
All
You're
right.
doing a
Good.
great
Good.
job. You're doing a great job.
All right. So I'm curious about a couple of things. When I heard you talk in Miami at the Fed conference, you talked a lot about your goals and where you
Hmm.
want the company to be, Amerikooler.
Hmm.
And I'd like to see if you wanted to discuss that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where do you, how, number one, where do you see the company in the future, let's say 10 years, and how are you going to get there?
Uh, I have my personal goals, I'm going to whether Amerikooler is the sole vehicle to get me there, or it's Amerikooler plus something else, or whatever. That's a part that I'm always assessing. For Amerikooler, it's simple. I just want to be like you know, I want to be the number one walk-in. When people think walk-ins, like Amerikooler, right? Like my whole vision was frankly to be a little bit even bigger than that. Like I always admire what companies like Middleby have done, and Ali Group, especially Ali Group, that they're a privately held company initially, and they buy these great brands, and then now they own I don't know how many dozens of companies, and that's a nice place to be in. Um, so we'll see. Like that's if I'm gonna do something, like I want to go all the way.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm enjoying some of the media stuff that I'm doing too. That could be part of the equation. Um, but we'll see.
Cool.
Ultimately, you know what? Like, as driven as I am, and as motivated. Like, what's important is that I'm happy. Right, being happy is a great thing,
Yeah.
and at peace, and that I'm enjoying it. And then if you can combine that with like nice, great results, fantastic. So right now, that's what I'm focused on. I mean, right now we're like, we're in the middle of this virus thing, so it's like all these beautiful plans that I had for this year are, I'm still gonna hold on to them for my dear life, but I'm gonna have to improvise a little bit.
Yep.
And then moving forward, we'll see. Maybe there's an opportunity right around the corner that hasn't popped up yet, but believe me, my eyes are wide open. So I want to seize that. So I guess long story short, I'm going to take the company organically as far as I can, which will be, I would say, a nice revenue amount for a walk-in cooler, right? And if I could throw in some acquisitions, like I certainly will. Like, right now we're fully private. We don't have any outside investors and stuff, which is very good in many respects. As far as acquisitions, which are capital intensive, I'm probably a little more limited than I would be if I brought on a lot of partners, but everything has its pros and cons.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. I like that answer. And on the topic of media too, I really enjoyed your ad for the walk-in cooler. Get a free can of Lysol.
Yeah. That was a little, like that's an example of, that was like all me. Like I didn't even run that by anyone. But that was a controversial ad. I would say some people loved it. Some people didn't like it too much. But
Yeah, I could imagine.
you know, but hey, man, I enjoyed taking risks.
But you know what? And at the same time, I mean, look, I know that this is everything that's happening with the virus and stuff right now. It's a very serious matter for a lot of people, But at the end of the day, I think that we're only human, and if we can't find light in any situation, I mean, we're all but doomed. You know what I mean? I just
Hmm.
That's just my personality. I'll try to
Mm.
find the humor in anything. And I mean, it's not like the ad was over the top or super offensive or anything like that. It's
Mm.
it's just you gotta chuckle. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely it was, but that's how I like, I enjoy, or, like I used to always want to be liked by everyone. Like growing up, I wanted to be liked by everyone. I want everyone to like me. And over time, I realized that, no matter what, not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to agree with what you do.
hmm
And frankly, that's a good thing, because if no one dislikes you, like if no one, I'm not saying someone has to hate you, but if you're being yourself, like someone's not going to like you, someone's going to disagree with you. And that's important. I think you got to be yourself, and accept that some people, no matter what you do, aren't going to like you and they're going to disagree with you, but
yeah,
it's life.
that is life. And on
Yeah.
that topic, that kind of is a good segue into my last question. And you might find this funny, so I don't know. We'll see. So I've talked to a few people who know you, and they've met you, they've been around you, and I have to say, and I don't know if you've heard this before, maybe you have, but all of them say the same thing about you. All of them say that you have this aura around you, and like this presence that you exude. As weird as that sounds, I know, but have you heard that
Mm.
before? Number one, and number two, can you give any tips on what that means? Do you know what that means?
I don't know, man, but I'm kind of blushing a little bit. I mean, that is like an enormous compliment, by the way. So whoever said that, thank them.
Will do.
Uh, I don't know, man. I don't really talk about it much, but I believe in a higher power, and I feel like that whatever you believe that higher power to be, without really getting into what's right and what's wrong. Um, um, I don't know. I just feel that presence, like with me sometimes. So maybe that comes through. I don't know. But I would say I also, I like people and I enjoy what I do, and maybe that's what they feel too. Maybe they feel that I'm passionate about them, and I'm happy that I'm with people, and if any of my enthusiasm or whatever can come through, and maybe help them to feel better, that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's a larger than life persona, and I think it
Mm.
just gives the impression that that you're going places, man. So just keep up the good
Oh,
work.
well, thank
Um,
you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. And so with that, I'll let you go, Gian, and I really, really appreciate your time today. Why don't you go ahead and let people know, where they can find you, um, Amerikooler website, whatever you want to plug there.
Yeah, I mean, well, first things first, you did it. You're doing a great job. I love what you're doing. Like that, what you're hammering about the skills, the skilled trades, and all is freaking awesome, man. Because
Thank
you're
you.
giving an alternative to a lot of people that is an honorable vocation, and frankly, it can lead to wealth. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's an honest, honorable living, and it's a great thing, and I personally love, like the skilled trades and people that are like, that's a real service to society. You know what I mean? Like that is a very honorable thing. So I just want to not acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
And to write a book is freaking awesome too, man. I don't have the discipline to write that yet. I'm working. I'm like on practice meditation or something. I don't know. I can't sit down for 5 minutes, but somehow I'll figure out how to write a book. But you're doing a great job, and I appreciate the podcast. So I encourage everyone to follow. Obviously, whoever's watching this is going to be following you. But I'll do my best to spread your message. It's great. It's a great message. So I'm Mr. Manufacturing on Instagram, on Facebook, basically. On LinkedIn, you can find me by Mr. Manufacturing. You may have to type in my real name, Gian Carlo, Giancarlo, Alonso. But if you type in Mr. Manufacturing, I think something will come out of that. So um,
Awesome.
yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate your time today, and thanks again for being on the show, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.